Today we're going to talk about memory cues. And memory cues are anything really that reminds you of something that you know. So it's like when your friend says, "Hey, do you remember when we met Jake last year?" And you say, "No, I don't, but remind me." And it's, "Okay, well, we were at the Starbucks at Campbell and Broadway. It was a Wednesday. We had just seen a movie," and just different cues of the scene, and then you remember everything and you put it together and say, "Oh yes, now I remember Jake." It's not that you ever forgot who Jake was, it's just that you forgot meeting him. Well, you didn't forget it, but you stored it and now you needed to recall it, and something cued you to that memory. Specific types of memory cues are mnemonic devices. Now, mnemonic devices are interesting. When one type is you take a anagram, you make an anagram out of a word, and you use each letter of the word to associate to it something, a piece of information, and it's like the colors of the rainbow. People say, "Oh, Roy G. Biv," and you're like, "Well, that's weird. It's like sounds like a name," but also each letter stands for a color, like red, orange, yellow for Roy, and green for G, and blue, indigo, and violet for Biv. So you just remember the colors. Another type of memory cue would be a memory palace, and that's my favorite type of memory cue. It's where you imagine a location, that you know very well, that you know and doesn't change a lot, so that you can store information in that location, in different spots of that location. It's like in the book, they were talking about people trying to learn, I think, different philosophies of different philosophers, and they went to a different coffee shop for each philosopher, and at each coffee shop they would talk about the philosopher, and they would make connections between the location and information in the philosophies. And so when they needed to remember different things about a certain philosopher, they would go back in their mind to that location and recreate the scene or the location and pull the information out that they needed to know. So I have been experimenting making my own memory palaces, and I'm going to show you one that I've constructed here. I decided that I would try to remember the top 5 grossing movies of all time. And so once I figured out what I wanted to remember, the information, I needed to find a location to associate that information with, so that I would make those kind of broad, weird connections, and I would remember it better. So I decided I would use the U of A, because the U of A is well known to a lot of people, and I would use the buildings on the mall, specifically the first 5 buildings on the mall as you enter heading west. So the first 5 buildings on the mall heading west are the Eller Theater, the Giddings Building, the Kuiper Building, the Flandrau Observatory, and the Sonnet Building across Cherry. And the first top 5 grossing movies of all time are Gone with the Wind, Avatar, Star Wars, Titanic, and The Sound of Music. So I needed to come up with associations between those buildings and those 5 movies, so I could remember them based on the order of the buildings that I remember. So for the Eller Theater and Gone with the Wind, they're both old, sort of. Eller Theater, the word theater, the idea of going to the theater and seeing a live performance is kind of an older thing. We have movie theaters, but the original definition of a theater would be like where you'd see a play, which is kind of an older thing. So an older thing and an older movie, like Gone with the Wind is an older movie. Connection made. The second building is the Giddings Building, and in the Giddings Building is where they have the physiology professor's offices. And I think the movie Avatar, they were making some weird physiological stretches in that movie of growing bodies to inhabit conscious, So weird physiology buildings, Ina Giddings Building, Avatar. So the third movie we want to remember is Star Wars, and the third building is the Kuiper Building, and Kuiper is a name associated with space, like the Kuiper Belt. So space, Kuiper, Star Wars, connection made. The fourth building is the Flandrau Observatory. Now, that'd be nice if the Titanic was a space movie, but it's not. It's about a boat that hit an iceberg. So I was thinking of an observatory would have a giant telescope, and with a giant telescope, they could see an iceberg and a disaster averted. And so that connection was made. And then the fifth building is the Sonnet Building, and the sonnet is a type of poem, and which is kind of lyrical and has rhythm and like a song and music, and so the Sound of Music, the Sonnet Building, connection made. So that's kind of a simple memory palace, and you'd want to make one that dealt with bigger items, but for a short video, that's about all we can get. So that's it. Thank you.